Hey everybody, I'm Tommy. Welcome to the boat. How are you? I'm glad that you are here. Kristen Melinda, Lisa Trimble, good to see you. Saguaro Christmas, what's happening? Mom. Just Joan, I'm glad that you are here. I really am. Hope everybody is doing well tonight. We're going to get right into this thing. This, folks, is one of those rare opportunities. You know me, right? Far be it from me to take pleasure in saying, boy, you know what? I was right again. Actually, I really dig saying that. I think everybody on planet Earth digs saying that. But boy, I nailed this one. I really did. This is a funny one. So let's just get this underway. You probably are aware of the fact that we are doing some stuff, and I don't want to get into a good debate about this. It's just a little background that we need in order to tell the story. Capiche? But we are laying some fairly hefty tariffs on China. We're laying a lot of hefty tariffs on everybody, but a lot of them are really aimed at China to some unbelievable amounts, really, really high numbers. Okay, it's enough of that. The Chinese are a little pissed off, which makes a lot of sense if you think about it, but they are responding to this in a very unique way. They've made a lot of videos to say, hey, I got some news for you. You know those bags you bought from Prada? They're made in China. You know those bags you bought from Louis Vuitton? They're made in China. You know that stuff that you bought that says Gucci, any of the other ones, Fendi, pick a ridiculous bag that some woman out there is spending $45,000 on. And guess what? It's made in China. And the funny part of this is that people start to talk about the quality. Now, obviously, if you're going to pay $45,000 for a handbag, look, I drop a lot of money on wristwatches. I'm not judging people for having hobbies that are expensive, right? I'm not. If you want to pay that, that's great. But if I were buying $10,000 watches, right, that were made in China with parts that didn't come anywhere from Switzerland, this might be an issue for me. To know that the Rolex that you buy is made in the same factory as the fake Rolex you buy would piss off watch collectors to a level that I don't think you could wrap your brain around. However, I have been telling people for eons that the bags that they bought are not made in China. I mean, are not made in Italy. Simply put, it couldn't be happening, right? The size and the scope of the operations make it a very difficult thing to wrap your brain around, that they're really doing all of this really fine hand stitching work in these places, and it doesn't check out. But the hysterical thing is now it's really getting outed, and a bunch of people are picking it up. TikTok apparently is all over this, as people are having a really good time thrashing the companies that they're pretty bummed out about. Now, I have a friend. Well, I had a friend, and this friend and I had a discussion about this while the person was buying shoes that were made in Italy. And they're like tennis shoes, right? But they're like $1,000 tennis shoes, $1,200 tennis shoes. The cheap ones are $600 or $700, right? Tennis shoes. So I had a debate in the store. What the hell is the name of the company? It's going to escape me because it doesn't mean that much to me. If it was a watch company, I would remember. Golden Geese, something Geese, gold. Anyway, I said, I guarantee you these puppies are made in China. They're made in the same factory that everybody else's shoes are made. Then what they do is they ship them to France, or they ship them to Italy, or they ship them to wherever they're being finished, right? Where they can then put one of those tags that say made in Italy. Although oddly, usually the I isn't capitalized. I'm not exactly sure why that is. Maybe, here's the thing, like with watches are one of the strangest of all products. Watches used to be sent to the United States in what they called unadjusted movements, so that they could be adjusted once they got to the United States. That way you're shipping raw merchandise as opposed to shipping a finished product. And you dodge what is called a VAT, which is a value added tax. And these taxes can be absolutely exorbitant. This is even before we started to levy these unbelievable taxes. But I sat there debating with the people in the store at the Golden Geese place whether or not these shoes actually came from Italy originally, or whether they were knocked out in China and then finished in Italy. And they said, oh, absolutely not. These things are handmade from the bottom to the top in Italy. Now, I can't tell you whether or not that is one of the companies because I didn't, I really was looking primarily at handbags. That's what they outed first. Although then they started showing all kinds of other stuff. You probably know that all eyewear, all of it is made by one company. So if you buy a pair of Prada glasses, you can buy the exact same pair at a 7-Eleven, pull them off of the little rack thing for $1.50, put the Prada thing on the side and glue on a couple of fake diamonds. And you're looking at $4,000 sunglasses. Right? It seems almost beyond the pale, right, of how stupid we are as a society. First of all, by the way, my friend literally had $25,000 worth of these shoes. Literally. I don't know that there's a pair of tennis shoes worth $1,300, but that's me personally. But I promise you, folks, there is so much more of this going on than you have any idea. And the people that are starting to chase this down and do a little research, as it turns out, all of the skins and the hides and the leather and the things that are being used for this are coming from Nigeria. There's a big pipeline, and this should make a lot of sense because we have watched the Chinese over the last couple of decades make unbelievable inroads into Africa. And now it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? The insane thing is that we're willing to take something. They will admit that one of these $45,000 handbags has about $1,200 into the manufacture of it. Now, I'll tell you something. I made handbags in prison. It was one of those things that you do in a in the arts and crafts room. You're good. In the arts and craft room in prison to kill time. Everybody does, right? And you get to play with leather and build bags and do stuff. It's fun. And it's something that I farted around with when I was in prison. I can't figure out how you could possibly come up with $1,200 worth of anything if you made it out of the most expensive materials on earth. I just don't understand how you come up with 12. But let's just, for suspension of disbelief, let us pretend that makes a lot of sense. And there's $1,200 into the bag. That means you're paying $39,000, right? 39 grand for the name. Well, that's just got to make you feel good, doesn't it? And how hard are they laughing at us? For real, how hard are they laughing at us? I've told the story before, but years ago, there was a company called SOS. They made ski clothing and other stuff. And once while they were being interviewed, a guy came clean and they said, what does SOS stand for? And he said, seriously overpriced sportswear. We figured if we put a price tag on it bigger than everybody else's, people would buy it just so that they could say they did. It put them out of business, right? Nobody wants it waved in their face. But that's who we are as a society. And it's endemic of everything else that's going on, right? The status symbol of carrying a bag that's worth $40,000. You know how many people are getting whacked for these things, by the way? Now, I know people are going to say the same thing over wristwatches. I get it. And having a $5,000 or a $10,000 wristwatch or a $900,000 wristwatch, you are taking your life into your own hands if you take that thing out on Broadway or if you take that to the wrong place. You can absolutely be targeted for things like that. However, I will make an argument just because it is my hobby that the amount of time that goes into making a wristwatch and what it is capable of delivering versus a sack that you literally could get the exact same effect out of buying any bag at Walmart for $150. And by the way, Walmart has a version of that $40,000 bag for $150. It is damn near identical, and it should be because it's made in the same China factory that's cranking out your $40,000 one, you knucklehead. Good God in heaven. I mean, I'm all about my first, second wife. My second wife had a Kate Spade thing, had a vicious Kate Spade thing. This is when Kate Spade was still alive. It was, thankfully, the only brand that she really went after, but I bet she had 25 or 30 of them. And these things aren't $60. You know what I mean? They're fairly expensive. But all of the money that the people who chase name brands spend, it's a disease. It really is. It's a disease. And I hate to say I told you so, but we're going to hear so much more about this in the upcoming weeks that I hope it's a story that you check it out. Yeah, I saw a video of some girl begging her mom for $20 to get a Hailey Bieber lip gloss on TikTok. She got dragged for it. Well, I would imagine. Hold on one second. Why? Yeah, I saw a video of a girl begging mom $20 Hailey Bieber lip gloss. Well, it's not as bad as a $165 muffin or whatever the hell that Blake Lively was charging. Remember the blueberry muffins for over a C note, and you're not actually getting a muffin; you're getting the recipe. It's funny. I am working in some other businesses. It's one of the reasons that I'm not doing as much on YouTube as I was doing. I've taken some cash and invested it, and I'm doing some other things. And it's interesting because no matter what you sell in life, there's somebody else that's selling the same thing. And it's fascinating to see how people market the exact same product. But there are magazines like the DuPont Registry, the Robb Report, the Rake. These are magazines for people who are disgustingly wealthy. Right, the car ads are for Ferraris and Lamborghinis. The watch ads are for Richard Mille and companies that are asking $1 million for watches. And it's just there's got to be a magazine for people that have that much money, and they show yachts and things like that for sale. Inevitably, somebody will take a product that sells elsewhere in the world for $25, and they will take out a full page ad in the Robb Report and say that this product is the most expensive version of this product, and guaranteed you're going to sell the crap out of it. Because there are people who just want to say, I paid $9,000 for mine, right? Pen or, whatever. Plato, the philosopher, said that there was a universe somewhere other than where we're at now. And in that universe, there was the perfect form of everything, right? So the perfect watch, whatever that is in that universe. The perfect car, whatever is in that universe. And it gets you to wondering, right? How much we have sold our soul to chase down name brands, to chase down status, right? And the Kirsten Melindas of the world and the therapists and the counselors are could probably spend a lot of time looking into what causes somebody, right, to chase name brands. And I don't think it's a stretch to say very often it comes from one parent or another who puts money, right, above all else. If you have a parent who values success financially more than anything else, and all of the trappings that go along with it, then you're probably creating a little consumer devil, right, or devilette. This to me, number one, it's hysterically funny. I'm sorry, it really is. It's funny to me that the rich have been buying stuff from China. Because if you had said to any of these bag snobs, hey, why don't you just go to Walmart and get you a $150 bag? It'll be just as good. They would have blown a hemorrhage. If you said you could get a China-made bag that's just as good as your Italian one, they literally would have gone apoplectic. But to be able to back it up and say, no joke, you're buying it from the same factory. Bummer. Hopefully, it makes you feel like an idiot, right? Hopefully it does. Do you know that we spend more money in the United States on water bottled than we do on gasoline? If you look at every car on a highway traveling up and down the road, you would say to yourself, we spend more money on water than we do on gasoline? How's that possible? But we do. And one of the first really big brands, especially to do it without carbonation, was Evian. A lot of people like to point out that the word Evian backwards is naive. Right? How do you get somebody to buy something that is already in existence for free everywhere you go? How hard is it? I mean, there are places on the planet that aren't like this, right? But I'm not talking to too many of them. Most of us can walk up to the kitchen sink and get us a glass of water, or you've got a little deal on your refrigerator that pumps it out. However, put a 2 in the chat if you spend a lot of money on bottled water, and put a 3 in the chat if you're honest enough to say, I won't buy one of the off-brand ones because it's just, How many people you see buying water that's, if you were to take it out into a gallon so that you could compare it to gasoline, you're literally spending about 6 times more for water than you are for gasoline. Bulldog says, anyone rich that does it the right way is humble and not flashy. You don't show off, you don't talk about it. I think that I'm not sure that that's right. I'm not trying to argue the point, but I think that there are people who make their money correctly, and once again have that parent or had that ideal growing up that said, in order to be successful, you need a Cadillac or you need a Rolls Royce, or you need a Bentley. And I'll tell you something, it's fascinating. It really is. I'm coming into a better place in life than I've been in a long time. And every other time that has happened to me, I have had a fairly ridiculous drug problem. And there were certain things that had to be done the second I got my money. And the first was to go out and get an automobile that told everybody I had money, right? Maybe something Italian. If not, certainly something very nice in German. But there had to be something to let people know that I was successful. And, you know, the process of figuring out you're a loser is very often like peeling an onion. We've talked about that a lot on the boat. And one of the realities of that was, why do I do the things that I do? Right? Why? You know, I've talked about this before on the boat, but the best year I had as a public speaker, I made about 800 grand, which is a lot of money, right? Now, I spent almost the entire year on the road. In fact, during my time off, because they schedule you for time off so that you don't get what they call road rash. During my time off, I was going with another company, right? So that I could go back on the road. And I literally worked every single week of the year, except the 2 weeks before Christmas and the 2 weeks after Christmas. Other than that, I was on the road the entire year. But it was astounding that it wasn't enough to make the money. It wasn't enough. The people that I spoke with needed to know how successful I was. Now, I could probably walk up and go, hey, this was what my paycheck was this month. But that's not how you did it. You did it by buying more stuff, right? And it was crazy because as a public speaker, you work 3 days a week and then you go home. You're home for about 4 days. Sometimes you're on 4 and off 3, but it's always, 3 or 4 days that you're on the road. And your other speakers and your other road crew would come back and the first thing they would do is say, hey, guess what I got? I went out and got, because we're on the road, we make all this money, and then you got to run home and buy something to impress all of the people with the cash that you made. And it's, I don't know, maybe it's one of those situations that happens over time, or maybe it's, I don't know. Honestly, I don't. But this is the first time in my life where I don't really give a crap about any of that. There's really, there's nothing from a status standpoint that I have any desire to do anymore. I really don't. I think at this point, success to me means isolation from the things in life that are unpleasant. Right? Waiting online is unpleasant. If money can keep you from having to wait online, then you have hit it out of the park. Imagine this, Tommy. Only in America can someone like Stanley Meyer build a vehicle that runs off of H2O and the feds will bankrupt him and his team. I have read the stories of him where he was able to drive from one side of the country to the other on just nothing but water. It's a fairly fascinating story. But the more I research, the more I come to realize that there's nothing in this planet that we can feel good about. I'm sorry, there really isn't. I shouldn't say that. It's very pessimistic. I think the only thing that we really can be feeling good about right now is that I think there is a spiritual, and I don't mean that in terms of God, although I think for a lot of people that's what that means. But there is a spiritual awakening going on this planet. There are people now who are starting to question things that up until just recently, for lack of a better way to put it, you're not allowed to question, right? I'm going to catch crap for this. We're already demonetized because I don't care anymore and I say whatever I want. But if not, we're sure as shit going to get demonetized right now because one of the things that keeps coming up, I'm really taking a very hard look at Epstein again and really looking into Epstein and Epstein's connections and all of these things. We have found ourselves in a place where you can't trust even the people whose job it is to maintain trust, right? Journalists are supposed to go out, research stories, and bring the truth back, right? This is the fourth estate, or the fifth estate, rather. This is where you can affect global politics, even not being a politician. If you research a story well enough, and you bring that story to the light, and you get people to go, no, that can't happen anymore. That's the dream, right, of all of this. But when your press is bought and paid for, and I'm not being a conspiracy theorist, I don't give a crap what side of the aisle you're on. You can't believe as a Republican that the press is not bought. And as a Democrat, you can't believe that it's not either. It's bought and paid for. And how could it not be? How does the news stay on the air? Huh? Well, they run commercials, right? And who pays for the commercials? Well, it depends, right? Mercedes-Benz will pay for a commercial. Well, what if Mercedes-Benz doesn't like the message on the news? Because I promise you that becomes an issue. So what they did is they bifurcated us into two different camps. That way, you're not going to piss off the people advertising to your audience, right? Because you can now advertise to the right or you can now advertise to the left, and you know that you can needle them in the right way. You're going to get them to buy. It's just a whole lot easier, right? It's right back, once again, to the us versus them. If we can divide these into black and white, into pro-life, pro-choice, if we can do this person thinks you should be able to own a gun, this person thinks you shouldn't, we just keep polarizing ourselves into one camp or another. And I guess the only good news is that I think a lot of people are really freaking sick of it. You know, the fact that Bill Maher went to the White House, pardon me, folks, gives me an erection. I'm absolutely blown away that two people that could hate each other as badly as the President of the United States and Bill Maher from HBO's, whatever the hell the name of his channel is. And Maher's a funny guy. And he's also, whether you like him or not, wildly intelligent. Bill Maher is not stupid, right? That's a cat that's very, very intelligent. I long for the days where people who hate one another can sit down and have a conversation, right? But it's really hard to do that these days, isn't it? I mean, it is really hard to do that these days. Number one, you're going to hear it, right? You can't have private conversations anymore, not in 2025. But we find ourselves in a really weird spot. We really do. We find ourselves in a really weird spot where everybody on planet Earth has come to realize that nothing occurs on planet Earth until a sales takes place, right? Nothing. Until you get someone to say yes to something they don't want to do, there's no car sold, there's no stock sold, there's nothing built, right? Literally. So news has become sales. You are presenting a product to an audience that better like what you're presenting them. Because if not, they'll go somewhere else. So it's not really all that important to tell the truth. It's important to keep the people on the channel long enough to see the commercial. Right? What do they love more than anything? An effing car chase. If you can get a car chase on the news, who's turning away? You're waiting to see if the guy gets crashed or if he shoots somebody or if they end up killing him. I'm not going to lie to you people. I catch a car chase, I can't not watch it. And I'll watch it till the very end. Why? Well, because we're kind of sickos, aren't we? Holy hell. Jeffrey Canale, my friend. It is a honor to have you in the house. Jeffrey Canale is a true friend, folks. How's that? How many of those can I say that about? No, I shouldn't have said that. Now they're going to attack him. I'm sorry. I don't really like Jeffrey Canale. Sorry, my friend. Just a good dude. Really, really good dude. Glad that you're here, my brother, and thank you. My elbow clicks at least once every day in my life. I get this terrible click where my elbow kind of locks into place just for a split second, and then you got it. And it's because he bent it backwards until it snapped. He's kind of a sicko, but I don't know. I forgive him. It was the day before I got out of prison, so I was able to put it behind me. You know something? This is so funny that you say that, man. Really, this is funny that you say that. Remember the old Don Henley song, Dirty Laundry? I do. And it is absolutely the perfect song for the occasion, isn't it? Can we film the operation? Is the head dead yet? You know, the boys in the newsroom have got a running bet. Get the widow on the set. We need Dirty Laundry. It's a foul existence. Right? This media circus that's been created around virtually everything, right? Virtually everything. The amount of money that people stand to win or lose by lying versus telling the truth is making it overwhelming for people to do the right thing. If you took my earlier assignment and you went and looked at the people that were putting up some of the content that was highlighting the 17 missing girls in Atlanta. If you took my assignment and you went and looked at that, you probably saw some people that didn't comment on it at all. They just put it up and let you look at it. I'm sorry. I think that is a form of intellectual dishonesty. if you're a content creator, it doesn't take but about 6 minutes to research something as massive as 17 people reported missing. Now, the people that have come back at me have said, no, listen, there's a bunch of people in Atlanta talking about it. The press and the news haven't. That passes the smell test to you? Honestly, that passes the smell test to you. Let me rephrase the question. Your daughter goes to a job interview that she found on Indeed and doesn't come back. Are you going to be silent about that? Or are you going to call Fox, ABC, NBC, CBS, and everybody else that'll take a call? It's pretty simple. Seriously, think about it. What would you do if it was your kid? What would you do if it was your wife, your girlfriend, your sister, your niece, your aunt? Yeah, there's no way. I'm sorry. There's no way. Sandy Wandy says, I found 0 articles on that. Kind of funny, right? Me too. Now, I found people that died going to job interviews a couple years back. Didn't have anything to do with Indeed. I found some stories in Dallas, Texas, and some stories in Florida of people that have made some complaints against some of the people that have used Indeed as one of their job search platforms. If they made complaints, they're not dead. Right? Can we agree on this? If you were able to file a complaint, you're not dead. So you're also probably not kidnapped. Do I believe a bunch of creepy crap happens? Absolutely. Absolutely. Right? A ton of creepy crap happens. And guess what, folks? Sometimes creepy crap happens that isn't creepy. You say, well, what? People in Atlanta aren't going to job interviews because they are so frightened of this. Right? Okay. There's no truth that we can find to justify that fear. Doesn't mean the fear is not real, right? Doesn't mean the fear is not real. So you can have people that just freak themselves out, right? I've told the story a bunch of times, but I was on a work release as a convict, right? So those guys that you see working on the side of the road kind of thing. And we went down to Carson City, Nevada to do some cleaning out. And there was a really old, decrepit, disgusting motel that had been shut down for a long time. And people had gone in there to party. And there's beer cans and all kinds of trash that they wanted picked up. Now, the rumor is the place is haunted. And there were guys that are like, I'm not going in there. And there was me and this big peckerwood named Woody, just huge dude. And Woody's like, I'll go in with you. And the two of us walked in there. And I can't tell you what happened to this day. I don't know if we just scared the crap out of each other, right? But somebody said this place is haunted before we walked in. And then there was a point at which it got kind of cold. And the second we felt the difference in temperature, forget it, right? We've seen all those ghost things. We knew what was happening. And we went running the hell out of there. If you had asked me as I was exiting the building, I would have sworn to you that a ghost was chasing me. Hindsight being 2020, I think 2 convicts probably scared the crap out of themselves and then tried to run out with shackles, and that's good for a laugh. But how many people do you think go to a job interview and just get a really creepy feeling? It doesn't mean the guy was going to be a rapist. The guy could just be a creep. The guy could just be creepy. But once you get that thought into your head, right? We have seen how quick somebody can go from $4 an hour to a murderer, right? Because somebody's wearing a lab coat. You're going to have to shock that man. That's what you're in here for. Yeah, but over 300, your job is to shock him. What they say, 60% went all the way to the finish line. 100% went over 300 volts, which on that board said was enough to kill you. It doesn't take much, right? Let's look at the Diddy thing real quick, because I find this fascinating. I was listening to somebody today talking about the Diddy case, and he said something that harkens back to Harvey Weinstein and harkens back to the Me Too movement. A woman can retroactively take back her consent. Now, I told you how I feel about that. That's absolute horseshit. You consent or you don't. I'm sorry. If you say, no, I'm not doing this, you didn't consent. If you go, yeah, let's do this, and a year later you go, no, you raped me, there's something wrong with that. Sorry, that's a weapon no one should be able to have. I can change my mind and call you a rapist 3 years from now if you turn out to be an asshole is a weapon that no woman should be able to have, or any man for that matter. Sorry. But I heard someone today say, we may find a place in court where Diddy is telling the truth about this being consensual, and the woman is telling the truth about this being coerced. Did you catch that? This is, by the way, a man who had been a judge, a man who had been a lawyer, who said, we may see a case where both parties are telling the truth, because in Sean Combs' head, this is how you have a relationship. You tell a woman, yeah, you have sex with me. I can provide you a music career. I can do this, this, or this. This is how he's been getting laid for 30 years. In his head, that's a business arrangement, right? I pay for your hotel, or I pay for your rent. I get you a really nice car. You get a driver, and I get to sleep with you whenever I want. In his head, there's no coercion to that. In the girl's head, she's thinking, if I stop doing everything this guy wants me to do, I'm going to be out on the street. I'm not going to have a job. I'm not going to have a career. And he scares me. What? That's kind of, right? That's kind of two people. Nah, I don't see it. I'm sorry, I don't. I'm sorry, I don't. If Diddy's mind says this is dating, he's still a criminal. Yeah. Just because you're telling the truth doesn't mean that in your head, what you're telling the truth about doesn't make you a criminal. Jeffrey Dahmer believed that drilling a hole into a man's head and pouring some kind of caustic soda into it was going to turn this man into a zombie that he could sodomize whenever he want without having to deal with him or talk to him or do anything like that. Huh? Okay, well, that's Jeffrey Dahmer's truth. It absolutely makes him a lunatic, right? And a killer, breaking bunches of the laws there, yeah? Okay, Diddy may think that that's dating. It's called rape. Plain and simple. And they're hammering on this coercion thing. You watch, that's going to be the big story. But the other thing, because you know how much I like coming back and saying, hey, I was right again. I'm going to tell you something. We are looking at two teams right now that aren't ready to go to trial. Neither of them. The new superseding indictment, which isn't a new superseding indictment, it's a superseding indictment, and then they actually have to go in and arraign you again. It should be a formality. You should be able to waive it, but you can't. You have to come back to court and get arraigned just like it's the first time. Why? Because there's no new indictment that superseded the last one. So we need to hear how you're going to plead to this. And as messed up as it sounds, a lot of times a guy will change his plea at that point. He sees the superseding indictment and it's got some girl's name on there named Karen, and he's guilty as hell for something he did with Karen. He might just go, yeah, you know what? Screw it. Let's just change this to guilty. But I don't think that's what's happening here. I think that's what's happening here is, and we talked about this in the beginning. I said, when we get closer, it's going to be a chess match. And I think that Diddy's team has demanded a speedy trial, and they're going to stick to that till the end. And now what you've got is two freight trains running at each other, and neither of them want to blink. You remember Chicken, that game? Neither party wants to say, we're not ready to go to trial, especially Diddy's team, because they've been screaming for a fast trial, and this is the fastest trial in the history of the feds. I'm telling you, find me one faster. Usually, even if you just change your plea to guilty, it's going to take you 16 months. So this is fast. And they don't want all of this time for the prosecution to get their stuff together. The prosecution, I don't think, is ready either. And we all know Diddy lost that guy, Rico. I think they lost Rico because he knew that this is ridiculous. Terabytes of information. Terabytes. 250 full-length Hollywood films per terabyte. What'd they say? There were 90 of them? No problem. And you're going to give that to the defense with 60 days to go through it. What could possibly go wrong? If you do the math, how many people do you have to have watching all of this stuff and going through all of this stuff? One person couldn't possibly do it. A team of 6 couldn't in that period of time. And I'm talking about working around the clock. So you mark my words, and I will be back to say, I told you so. We're going to see this thing back in court on appeal. And it's going to be because of the amount of time they had to prepare for the trial. And I think that Mark Agnifilo is going to fall on the sword for this. In other words, I don't think he thinks he can win this, but I think he thinks he can set up the table for the appeal. That's just a dumb convict's opinion, folks, but that's my opinion. And now I'm going to clean up this office before a cat or a human walks in here and hurts themselves. You may have heard that shattering sound earlier. If I look down on the ground right now, I wish you could see it. This looks like, and I am sitting barefoot in here. I'm going to have to get out of from here to here. Just to give you an idea, nothing is any bigger than that. But it's everywhere. So I'm going to wrap this baby up. I will be seeing all of you tomorrow. I don't know if I'll be doing one of the day, but come back here tomorrow night at 7:00 and we'll have some stuff to talk about. All right. I promise. Between now and the next time I see you, I'm about handling a little harm reduction. And if it isn't too much, could you say a prayer for me and my family? Because none of us feel good. We're really struggling. All right. God bless, folks. Be careful. And we'll see you on the next one. Adios.